Hello everyone, and welcome to another video, where today I was actually doing something on my own for the channel when I figured, you know what, this is probably actually a good topic for a video. Now for those of you who don't know, in addition to my other videos on the channel, which is pretty eclectic as it is, I also do a couple gaming streams every now and then, usually on rainy days when it's not really feasible to do anything else. Now, in the last two streams, which are also the only streams at the moment, I was having quite a bit of an issue with audio quality. I didn't know this, but apparently wireless headsets are a no-go for streaming. The wireless quality, the Bluetooth, it just doesn't get it right 100% of the time. Now, given that the streams are only a part of the channel, I figured I'm not going to buy a dedicated microphone. Those are pretty expensive, and then you add the mic stand and everything, so I'm just going to use this regular, I think this was from my old Wii. It still works and has good quality, but it's something I already had on hand. Now I had this propped up right about here, but there was an issue with that. Notably, this keyboard is quite loud. In addition, I wanted to place the microphone somewhere where it wouldn't pick up any wind noise from me breathing or laughing, because that does not sound good on stream at all. So naturally, I got to thinking, how can I jimmy rig a stand for this? So I took a look at some things that I wasn't using anymore or were broken, and I found this. This is a lamp with a quite nice lamp stand. I don't need this portion. In fact, I actually have to get rid of it, otherwise the microphone rests on the metal. And from testing I've done with friends, this produces a very bad sound quality. But yeah, it has a nice ring around it where I can loop the cord of the microphone. It's also hollow, but I really don't think that I can actually get the cord through it. I think I'm just going to have to tape it on or something like that, because there are parts of this microphone on both ends that are too thick to pass through this, and I do not feel like rewiring it. Now I already took a pair of scissors and cut through the wire here that was present to sever the connection. I tried to figure out a way to just, take it out the bottom and just remove all of this in a way that I could feasibly put it back together again, but it just didn't work out. And now that that was done, I can just take this up here and pull it over the loop. Also, relevant and important, this lamp is not currently plugged in. Now, already this is pretty functional, but also pretty bare bones, and it has quite a few flaws. Because the cord is just dangling here, it's currently in front of the computer. Let's see if we can fix that. I also foresee this cord getting annoying, so let's see if we can't take it out. I already pulled this back, but it is adhesive, so it will put itself back on, and most importantly, it's going to be resting on this, so you really don't need to worry about strong adhesive. Let's peel this back, take a look at all these wires. Now, in general, it's best to leave things intact if you can. That's one of the main things I wanted to get across with this video. Things are a lot more useful in general if you don't scrap them for, say, their base metal components. For instance, this switch back here I might actually want to keep. However, unfortunately, it looks like these are not twist caps, so I am going to have to cut them. Now, these can go in a leaching bin, and the rest of these wires I think I'm just going to pull out. So now the problem wire is out. That would have been a tripping hazard, stepping on a plug hazard. Might cause a reasonable amount of pain. It also doesn't look very good. Unfortunately, this center wire doesn't seem to want to come out. This isn't a problem because we're not routing the microphone wire through the tube. But I guess it's just going to have to stay in there. Might clip it off just to avoid any rattling, but that's about it for that. Now let's see what we can do about this switch. Alright, so this part looks like it's just a thumb screw, but it's a bit of a hard one, so let me see if I can pry that open. I might need both hands. Alright, I was able to get it open. I had to use this to do the first loosening, but once I was able to do that, you just re-rotate it. Although I think it is stuck on something. Okay, there we go. I just had to rotate this center plastic piece a little bit more to get it to drop down. Alright, so there's the switch. I'll probably save that for something, even if it's just a stupid little project, connecting some wires together to make a circuit. Still useful for that. and there's really nothing important in here that I want to take apart. But in addition to that, we also have these pieces which were connected to the switch but aren't essential for its function. And these can be used for scrap metal. Specifically, this one is very weakly attracted to the magnet, and this one is very strongly attracted to the magnet. Despite having a brassy coating, it's probably some sort of steel. In fact, given this, I think I'm going to go through the entire assembly and see if there's anything worth salvaging here. The video is already getting quite long, as these scrapping videos tend to do, so I figure I'll just show you guys the finished result when it's all in separate pieces. If I need to use any more tools than the screwdriver, the scissors, and these pliers, I'll let you know. Also, as for why I'm not wearing gloves while taking this apart, if I was really concerned about safety, I would be, especially if I was taking apart many of these, but there's not really too many really sensitive parts in here. A lot of stuff that was fastened by hand, and I'm not taking apart computer electronics, which has a lot of soldering. I want to avoid touching anything that was soldered, and also, I definitely wouldn't want to take this apart, given that it contains mercury. But for just unscrewing stuff, taking some nuts and bolts out here and there, that's not really the kind of thing you need gloves for. If you were doing it a bunch, you probably should still have them, and should be wearing them, but just once and then washing your hands, no big deal. That said, if I were taking apart any components themselves, like the switch, or anything that had an integrated chip in it, I would need to wear gloves. Okay, so here we are. We have our scrap metal pieces, plastic with metal that needs to be leached out, big pieces of metal that are either scrap or might be usable for some other purpose, and stuff I don't want to take apart because of safety reasons at the moment. And then this switch. As for the safety, this contains mercury, this has soldered bits, and this has glue, so this one's less of a safety issue, but these certainly are. This might end up getting processed differently. In fact, they all might end up getting processed separately and differently. But this cannot go right here because of the large amount of glue on it. If it's at all noticeable, then that's a problem. Alright, now back to the task at hand. Putting this microphone on the stand. Now for this, I'm mostly just gonna use tape. And I'm gonna need both hands for that, so I'm really not gonna show it. I assume people know how to use tape. Here's where you have to do quite a bit of trial and error. Originally, I had this plugged in already. I had given it basically only a little bit of slack so that there wouldn't be any issues with wires dangling at my feet. And I taped it here and tried to sort of spiral up a little bit because that'll hold it to the center spine quite well, and I would have to use very little tape. And what tape I did use, there wouldn't be very much stress on it, which would be a problem. Unfortunately, that resulted in me spinning the microphone around, and I figured, one, it's hard to loop through stuff, which I inevitably had to force it to, and also, it sort of forced me to almost eyeball how many loops I had to do in order to get the perfect amount, which is not a very doable thing when you have to do so many of them. So when something isn't working, you try something else. In this case, I'm going to get the microphone in the position I want it, and then deal with the cord from there. Phew! Alright, that looks serviceable to me. It's not pretty by any means, but you could certainly add stuff that would hide all this. Personally, I don't care. It's a functional, jimmy-rigged mic stand. It may not look great, but it certainly saved me some money. And, you know, I'm really not that concerned about looks. It does the job. And this just goes to show you, you know, a lot of times you don't need to go out and buy a dedicated thing, such as a dedicated mic stand, because you could just take something that isn't working or is not in use and turn it into something that fits what you need. It may not be the greatest mic stand ever, but it's better than anything I had before, and it gets the job done. I might make improvements later on, but as for now, I think I want to try this out and see how good it is next time I stream. And it also just goes to show that a lot of times things have a lot more value than just their bare scrap metal value, especially when it comes to individual use. Well, anyway, that's all for now. I'm eager to see how this thing performs. Hope you all learned something and enjoyed. See ya.